I'm Dave Chun, KIALOA Paddles.
I'm Paul Clark, a KIALOA paddler.
Today we're here to talk about whitewater paddles. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of how KIALOA got involved in whitewater, and Paul's going to talk a little bit about how he has contributed to designing the paddles. We got started in whitewater because we live in an area where people do whitewater paddling. Around Bend, Oregon, the Deschutes River. There's a lot of famous rapids in this area, and our friends started to come to us and say, "Can I try your sup paddles, and I want to go down some rapids." Paul and I actually met when he was doing this unsupported solo Baja trip. He came and described the thing to me, and I thought it was such an outrageous thing to do, basically paddling down the Baja Peninsula by himself on a sup board.
With a dry bag on top for over 300 miles.
And so we built him a paddle, and he took it out there, and it kind of just forged this friendship and relationship. The other thing with Paul is an avid whitewater paddler, really just a good whitewater paddler. He does things that I would never ever think about doing because rivers are not my forte. I'm an ocean guy or a flat water guy. And so at KIALOA, what we do is we rely heavily on the experts. What we started with was basically our basic paddling, our basic shape of our paddle. This is Insanity. We quickly found out from Paul that we needed to add material to this paddle and make it stronger. And as things moved along, Paul started to notice that, yeah, it was an okay paddle, it worked really well, but we can make it better, which led us to this. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about your little baby here. This is called the Big Eddy, Paul's suggestion.
The Big Eddy, perfect. In paddling in whitewater, there are a few things that are really important: durability and effectiveness of the paddle. Going back to the classic teardrop shape that KIALOA does excellently, this works really well in any type of river environment. The catch is perfect. You could steer with it, you could rudder with it, you could feather with it. It's lightweight. I still use the teardrop for long river trips. How I like to run whitewater is typically multi-day sup-supported trips, dry bags on, just like in Baja, but I do that in rivers. Running more technical whitewater though, where I'm crossing ferries, ferrying across the river, crossing through eddy lines. It's nice to have a blade length that's longer, similar to a rafter's guide stick, where you could just hold this paddle in the water and let it move you along. So if you notice the difference in the lengths, you just have a lot more catch. It's fairly narrow throughout, but at about 21 inches, you have the ability to just sink this into deep water and let it carry you along. And for bracing, for ruddering, for general steering purposes, and the initial catch, this is a shape that will really catch on with the whitewater people. This is a recognizable shape, and the paddling that I've done with it, it really is an efficient and effective shape.
With the long length of the blade, do you ever vary the depth of when you're using it into the water?
Sure. In the general paddling, this is why the teardrop works so effectively, because I'm only using about half of this blade with the stroke. I'm using the entire length of the blade when I'm sinking into an eddy line or doing a ferry, and I have a smaller shaft, and it allows me to really reach into the water, and it does, with the current's help, leverage you across. So I will sink this entire blade in particular whitewater technical moves.
Okay. What's interesting is when Paul gave us the basic dimensions of the paddle, I started to kind of look at it, and I have to usually have some kind of template somewhere, and I have lots of templates in my shop. One of the things that I've been working on is this paddle. It's called the Hawaiki. It's an outrigger steering paddle, and if you notice, they are very similar in shape. The two things, and it was what was interesting for me was here you are on the river, And here we are, you know, basically in oceans in Polynesia, and the shapes are so similar. You know, at KIALOA we have this slogan, it's together on the water. And I guess once again, this was just a kind of coming together of, you know, river and ocean, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
I think it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.